Baba Ezioku is a community activist in Leimert Park, an oasis of African-American culture in the heart of Los Angeles. He regularly meets others to discuss issues his community faces.
I grew up in an area where it was still oppression by law enforcement agency. And I use the term, I grew up in apartheid LA, and I'll be 78 this year. So people would ask, what do you mean by apartheid? Apartheid meaning that there were rules they called the sundown rule. And that means blacks could not be in that area after sundown. That's comparable to what happened in South Africa.
Although some things have improved, he says, the black community deals with discrimination on many levels, most notably police brutality and mass incarceration. Those are among the policy changes recommended to California in a recent report released by the state's task force on reparations. It also outlines payments to be made for African Americans held back by generations of discriminatory practices like housing, financial, and insurance discrimination. Michael Eason is a street musician who works as a barber. He says his life would be dramatically different if his ancestors hadn't had their property and land taken away by the government.
Because we've been disenfranchised, displaced, and not given a whole lot of opportunities to succeed, you know.
Eason is not optimistic that the reparations will be approved by the state legislature, despite a recent poll showing 63% of Californians in favor of cash payments, which some analysts say could help bridge the racial gap.
It can address the racial wealth gap. It can address disparities in health outcomes. It can address disparities in educational outcomes. It can also address other meaningful aspects of quality of life in America that Black people disproportionately have been negatively impacted by.
People like Ezioku could be the first Black Americans to be compensated if the progressive state votes in favor of reparation payments that could ultimately cost $800 billion, more than twice the annual state budget. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.